Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dig into a problem that pretty much every growing team hits eventually: getting stock. We'll explore a really powerful framework for moving past just maintaining what you have and into actively multiplying your leaders. All right, let's just dive right in with a question. Does it ever feel like your organization has just plateaued? Like you're all working harder than ever, but you're just spinning your wheels, staying in the same place? If that sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. And the reason, most of the time, isn't about your effort, it's about your structure. Okay, check this out. This chart is basically a diagnostic tool. I want you to look at it and see if you can find where your team is right now. Maybe you're at stage 2, where one person is the only real leader. What's the usual outcome there? Frustration and decline. Or, hey, maybe you're at stage 3, where leaders are acting more like managers. That's the classic recipe for a plateau. The important thing here is not to see this as some kind of failure, but as a totally predictable result of the model you're using. So if you looked at that chart and thought, yep, that's us, then you're probably dealing with what's called the leadership bottleneck. It's that point where your team's growth is literally capped by how much the current leaders can do all by themselves. And this is the key right here. The solution isn't to just pedal harder. That actually makes the bottleneck worse. The real answer requires a huge shift in how you see your role as a leader. It's not about working harder, it's about working differently. So what does working differently actually look like? Well, the answer might be hiding in a powerful and often totally overlooked example. It's a small detail from history that reveals a really profound strategy for leadership. Get this. At the absolute peak of his influence, Jesus, the main guy, delegates one of the most important tasks, baptizing, to his disciples. Think about it. He was obviously the most qualified person to do it, so why would he hand off something so important? And here's why that's so crucial. He wasn't just trying to rack up more followers. He was intentionally, actively building leaders. By giving them real work, real responsibility, he was growing their capacity. He was training them for what was next by empowering them right now. And look, this wasn't just some random thing he did once. It was his whole strategy. Train a core team, give them real work to do, and send them out. The real power in this model is that it's designed to be copied. His disciples got it so well that they used the exact same method to pick new leaders to solve new problems. It just goes to show, leadership isn't some magic quality you're born with. It's a skill that can and should be taught. Okay, so how do we actually use this? Well, before you can start making new leaders, you've got to figure out who you're working with. And this framework suggests there are basically 3 types of mindsets you're going to find on your team. First up, you've got the resistor, and you know this person. They're often your star player, the one who's always busy, always getting stuff done. Their whole identity is wrapped up in the buzz they get from finishing tasks and getting that pat on the back. The source material calls this a dopamine addiction, which is a great way to put it. They need that constant hit of job well done. So for them, taking time to develop other people, it just feels like a distraction from the real work. But as you can imagine, this doer mentality is a fast track to getting overwhelmed and eventually burning out. Next, there's the reluctant leader. Now, this one's tricky because on the surface, they can look like a fantastic leader. They've got a team, they get results, but they just enjoy being the center of it all, the rock star, maybe a little too much. Think of this one as a power addiction. They keep everyone on a really short leash because if they truly empower somebody else, it feels like they're losing control. They have that classic manager mentality. They control, they direct, they own everything. And that puts a hard ceiling on what their entire team can accomplish. And then, finally, you have the person we're all looking for, the ready. And what's interesting is these folks often fly under the radar. They're not the ones looking for the spotlight, because what really motivates them is something totally different. These are your future builders. Their drive isn't about getting credit or holding power. It's about investing in other people and creating something that lasts. They get the work done for sure, but they also care just as much about the people doing the work. And they're secure enough to say, hey, what do you think? And actually listen. Okay, so you found your ready people. Now what? This is where you have to shift the entire focus of your organization away from just maintaining and towards intentional multiplication. And I absolutely love this slide because it explains the mindset shift perfectly. Most leaders see the apple, the immediate result, right? the finished product. That's a maintenance mindset. But a multiplier? They see the seeds inside the apple. They see the potential for a whole orchard. They're not just thinking about this year, they're thinking about the next 10 years. And the framework is really clear about this. Multiplication isn't just a good idea if you have time for it, it's presented as the primary assignment of a leader, which means that just keeping things going, no matter how well you do it, isn't actually succeeding. Real success is reproduction. It's about making more leaders. So this all boils down to a super clear 3-step path called the growth track. First, you discover. You have to actively look for those ready people. Second, you develop. This is where you pour into them with teaching, training, coaching. And finally, and this is key, you deploy them. You give them real work with real authority. This isn't a test run, it's the real thing. You know, the whole point here is to stop hoping that leaders will just appear. The goal is to build an intentional system, a machine that makes leaders who then know exactly how to turn around and make more leaders. It becomes a self-sustaining cycle of growth. So we'll leave you with this final question to think about for yourself. When you look at what you do every day, your tasks, your goals, ask yourself, are you building a job for yourself where you control everything? Or are you building people, empowering them to lead and multiply? Because your answer to that question really determines everything.